Chris, what is our second main topic today?
This one comes from me. I have been a long-time subscriber to Netflix, and I have noticed that the company does not seem to prioritize retaining its existing subscribers as a metric of success. Instead, they seem to only focus on attracting new subscribers. This has led me to question the value that Netflix places on its long-term, loyal members. As someone who has been with Netflix since the DVD days, I found it disappointing when my favorite shows are no longer available to watch or get canceled after a, quote, successful season 1. Do you believe that this lack of focus on subscriber retention will cause people to cancel their memberships? And do you see Netflix changing its model on this? Thanks and bring on the filthy.
All right, Nate, thanks a lot for sending that in. And yeah, look, Netflix, as much as we talk about Disney Plus, HBO being the gold standard, the surging of Paramount, and all these other things, the reality is Netflix is still king of the hill. They've had their troubles the last year or so. Absolutely, I'm not pretending that they haven't. But when it comes to the streaming world, they're still on top of the hill. I mean, they've done it the longest. Some people feel they do it the best, whatever. But we have talked a lot on this show about the fact that, Netflix is quick to cancel a series when they recognized and see that this series is no longer pulling in new subscribers, is not pulling in new people. Maybe it's not performing as well as it does, and they cancel it, which makes Nate raise a very interesting question. Does this tell us that Netflix has no focus on retaining their customers and are only focused on trying to get new customers instead? Well, that is a great question. But if we go to the statistics, we see that they clearly do have a strategy for retention, and it's actually working a lot. Let's go over to the Campea classroom here for a second. So in talking about retention, the ability for Netflix to keep the existing customers they have. Okay. Well, the first thing we look at is this, is that Netflix has a 6-month customer retention rate of 72%. Okay. That basically means that when you look at, somebody who signs up for Netflix, are they still a subscriber 6 months later? We can put it this way. This means that 6 months after a group of people subscribe to Netflix, 72% of them will still be there 6 months later. In comparison, Disney Plus has a 6-month retention rate of 62%, which means Netflix's retention rate is already 10% higher than Disney Plus's is. And Disney Plus bundle, which includes Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus, has a retention rate of 68%. So clearly Netflix is doing it better in retaining their customers than even Disney Plus is doing. But what about the other guys? Well, the other guys, we see more of the same, which is this. Discovery Plus's retention rate is 64%. Peacock's retention rate is 57%. And Paramount Plus's retention rate at this point, I think you're going to see this number go up because of all the, Taylor Sheridan universe things going on. But Paramount Plus is 45%. So basically, when we talk about retention, despite the fact that I think it's a totally reasonable question that Nate is asking, why doesn't Netflix put any attention on retention? Well, clearly they do. And they are doing retention better than any of the other streaming services. Better than any of the other streaming services. How is this the case? When Netflix comes out and they have a show like $18.99, and there are people who watch it and really love it, and then it gets canceled after one season. Or they have a show like Daredevil that people love for 3 seasons and then cancel and it's gone. How do they do it? Here's a conversation I had with somebody that kind of illustrates the point, right? I can't remember exactly what show it was, but it was a show this person loved and it got canceled after 2 seasons. I can't remember what it was. But the person said to me, why should anybody stay subscribed to a network that is going to just pull their favorite show after a couple of seasons? To which I replied, because they made the show that you loved in the first place. And that's what Netflix continues to do, right? Like, instead of asking the question, why should I stay subscribed, but they pull the show? Well, the whole reason you love that show at all is because they're the ones who gave it to you. They gave you 2 seasons that you loved, that you really enjoyed, that you watched 10 episodes of twice. And they keep doing that. I mean, Netflix has this way of canceling shows, yes, but then suddenly 5 seconds later, they've got another show on that everybody's talking about. And then after a year or two, if it's lucky, 3, it gets canceled. But in the meantime, they put out 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 other shows that everybody falls in love. Their retention strategy is the same as their acquisition strategy. New content. New popular content, which is their acquisition strategy, is also their retention strategy. And again, if we go back to the classroom here, their retention strategy works better than anybody else. And their library grows. With each month that passes, their library gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Their archives get larger and larger, which becomes another part of their retention strategy. And that is why Netflix, well, I'm not the world's biggest fan of Netflix. I like Netflix, but I'm not a big Netflix fanboy. But when it comes to retention, they're the kings of the hill. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. This holiday season, the best deal in wireless can only be found at Mint Mobile. Right now, when you switch to Mint Mobile and buy any 3-month plan, you get another 3 months for free. Mint Mobile lets you order and activate from home with eSIM, while saving tons on phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know I've been using Mint Mobile long before this holiday deal, and I have to say it is the perfect time to switch. I have absolutely loved using Mint Mobile, and like I've told you guys many times, I am now spending less than 1/3 of what I used to spend under one of the other major mobile carriers. And now with the whole buy 3 months, get 3 months free deal, it's even better. All of their plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily and effortlessly with eSIM. Or if you need a new device, for a limited time, get 6 months of free service when you buy a select device and plan. So guys, for a limited time, buy any 3-month Mint Mobile plan and get 3 more months for free by going to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. Anyway, Rob, he raises a really interesting point because it feels like we're always talking about Netflix cancels, Netflix, whatever, but should they put more emphasis on retention? Is their strategy working? How do you see it?
Well, I think it is working. And, we've talked about, John, that Netflix is, I think their base model is they'll do 3 seasons of a show and then they're done. Because going beyond that, you usually will have to renegotiate with your talent. It gets more expensive to produce the show. And there's really no benefit for Netflix unless they have a wildly successful show like Stranger Things that becomes a zeitgeist show. It behooves them to go even further than 3 seasons. But for the most part, 3 seasons and then you're done. There's been shows like when they brought Designated Survivor over. They did one last season of that, 3 seasons. Lucifer, the show that Eric McCormack produced, and now I'm forgetting about it, but it's a Canadian time travel show. They picked it up. They did one last season of it, so it had 3 seasons, and they were done because there's no benefit. It's like Netflix is a supermarket, and all of the things, all the cans of food on the shelves, those are all part of Netflix, the supermarket of Netflix, and the cans are still there, but it doesn't behoove them to go beyond 3 seasons. And if they're not getting the kind of like $18.99, very expensive show to make. If people aren't watching that first season, you might love the show, but analytics don't lie. They've got real-time analytics at any one moment of who's watching the show, how many people are watching the show, what the demographics of the people are, and they know if it's working for them right away. They know if people will come back or stay a subscriber to Netflix based on the performance of the shows they have. They can tell right away. And I don't think, like, it's Nate, he was asking, is Netflix doing something to their viewers? No, they respond only to what works or what doesn't work. They're not trying to diss their own viewers because, like you just pointed out, they've got a great retention rate and they're doing great programming. They really are. And they're bringing programs from all over the world. No one's doing what they're doing internationally. There's something like Money Heist. I never would have seen Money Heist if it wasn't on Netflix. I think they're great.
And I mean, the reason they're able to make a show like $18.99 in the first place, or put the money behind it, was because another show got canceled that freed up the finances that they could make that. And now this show gets canceled because it wasn't performing the analytics that they were looking for. And that's going to go into the creation of something else.
And like you pointed out, 1899 wouldn't have been made unless the people that made this really cool German time travel series, the only way we would have been able to see it in America is when they brought it to Netflix.
Anyway, Chris, you hear this story. Nate raises a great question. How would you address it?
I mean, I'm maybe a bad consumer because I don't often think about like, how am I being treated as a customer? Why should I remain loyal to you? Because honestly, Netflix has remained very consistent for me. And that's mostly what I'm looking for is I'm getting introduced to new programming constantly, right? I know I can go get my cheesy Christmas movies there. I know I can get fun new foreign films. I know I can get new shows. The Recruit was something we were talking about. That might not have been on my radar if I hadn't just like popped on Netflix and gone, oh, I like that Noah kid. I thought he was a bright light in Black Adam. Let's check this out. You know, they're also willing to risk on Netflix in a way that I don't think other streamers are. We have things that maybe don't work for you, maybe do. We had things like Bandersnatch. Right now we've got Kaleidoscope, which I'm still a little iffy on how that's
cool.
working, but it's a cool concept of being able to watch a show in any order to see how it changes the narrative for you. You know, they're willing to do a lot of things because of that immediate response, right? Those immediate analytics of going, okay, well, who's actually tuning into this? And I think that that's kind of a more interesting model to follow, honestly. I'm always surprised. I'm not always in love with things on Netflix, but I'm always intrigued by what they're showing me. And it makes me at least give it the good old college try to see if I'm going to like it.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? Why has Netflix been able to have a higher retention rate than any of their competitors when they seemingly focus more on acquisition? Is it because we're right in that acquisition is the same as their retention strategy? Is the content strategy clearly working for them, or do you have another point of view on it? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there.